Saturday, which kind of reflects the mood of what is going on right now in the world. I hope everyone is surviving, doing enough self-care. Thank you very much. We all need to have self-care. I'm actually getting a little bit better night's sleep. Always make sure you're getting good sleep hygiene. We need to keep our wits about us under the circumstances. Anyway, so let's see. What do I want to talk about today? Oh, where do I begin? I don't know. Where do we begin? Well, let's talk about dark enlightenment. So, in amongst all of the craziness that is going on right now in the United States with regards to slashing this and slashing that and cutting this workforce and cutting that workforce, and including slashing the workforce that oversees our nuclear weapons. Yay! If anybody at this point doesn't understand how Russia might be involved in this, gee. I mean, it's just like, and granted, I am liberal, and I certainly support slashing the United States defense funding. I mean, that's something that we have talked about for decades and decades and decades. You know, it's like what we need: more education and less war and weapons, right? The military industrial complex in this country is extremely dangerous. And I just wonder, though, how much pushback Elon Musk and his lackey Trump are going to get from the military industrial complex, because they're pretty powerful. I mean, these are the people that are creating, and which is so funny too, right? Because Elon Musk has a bunch of military industrial complex contracts, right? Like, allegedly, someone made a funny meme that said, oh, we're going to cut the education budget, the Department of Education, and that'll be, we can buy, 100,000 cyber trucks, right? Like, the more money they cut for social services, education, benefits, etc., the more the government can buy and procure cyber trucks, right? Yay, Elon Musk is going to get all that, right? I mean, it was a meme. It was funny. I mean, that's not technically literally what is happening. But I'm sure they're saying, hold our beer, right? So it's very disturbing. It's like, what point do you, I mean, people are like, oh, have you heard about this? Have you heard about that? And I'm like, no, what? Because it's like every day there's just something new. I mean, every hour there's something new that is going on. And it's highly disturbing. And, this month is Black History Month. And of course, the government is no longer celebrating Black History Month because, of course, that is just DEI and all this other kind of crap. Now, I will say this about Black History Month. One of the most annoying things, and I will say this, is that I feel like they really didn't honestly get at the heart of the issue. I felt like a lot of stuff with regards to Black History Month and is that a lot of it's very superficial, and you're not really getting a lot of like fundamental understandings of race and this, like, the slave trade, and understanding history and understanding a lot of the underlying motivations and philosophies that led to slavery, right? It's all nice and well and good to know who got the first patent on dry cleaning, but it's like, in the larger scheme of things, what is that really teaching people? A lot of them are factoids. I mean, this is, and I know I'm going to get probably a lot of crap for this, but this is something that I think that we really need to kind of be aware of. It's like, I look at Hollywood, and I'm liberal, and while they do some very good treatments on various issues, etc., they've also done a lot of stupid pandering that even Black people have gone, what are you doing? You know, for instance, and I'm gonna get a lot of crap for this, but I'm sincere about this, right? You know, Interview with a Vampire is a good example of this. They took Interview with a Vampire, and I was a big Anne Rice fan, read the book many, many times, and took the character of Louis, who was a white French plantation owner's son. And he's the main character in Interview with a Vampire. And when they created it into a TV or a streaming adaptation, right, that they turned him into a Black brothel owner, completely changing the motivation, the character, everything. And a lot of people, including Black people, were like, what are you doing? Like, this has no meaning. I was like, oh, look, we've got more. And they were saying, oh, well, this is more, to give presentation of more Black, Black characters and Black this and Black that. But the thing is that the original character was a white French plantation owner son. And that is critical in telling the story. You can't just flip the thing and say, oh, well, now he's a Black brothel owner, as though you're fundamentally changing the story, right? And so that really didn't do anything to help raise the voices and of Black people, right? And it's like there's probably tons and tons. In fact, I'm sure there is tons and tons and tons of really good, really good, stories that can be told from the Black community. You don't have to take this material and then just turn it into Black people. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Because I don't think that it's effective. It's like, it just obviously looks like you're pandering, and you really don't understand anything fundamental. You're just thinking you can just swap out a white character and put in a Black character, and then that somehow that's like, see, we're diverse, we're whatever. And it's like, doesn't work like that, folks. And that was really, really apparent in Interview with a Vampire, and why people have spoken out against Interview with a Vampire. They're not racist. They're just like, that was a white character, and the white character of Louis had a fundamental reason why he was like that. I mean, there's parts in the book, and you just can't just swap it and just think that it's going to be the same story. And I thought, oh, well, that's just an interpretation. But you ruin this material, honestly, and you're not really doing anything. I don't understand what you're doing. So it's very frustrating when they do kind of stuff like that, and it's all well and good to, again, have understanding, Black inventors and Black, this and that. And it's like, wonderful, great. Yes. It's nice to raise them up and say, hey, did you know that your vacuum cleaner, or the first patent for a vacuum cleaner, was invented by a Black person? It's like, okay, great, wonderful. But what is that really honestly doing to really educate people about larger philosophical, socio-political issues? It isn't. It's just giving you more chaff that you're just it's not really doing anything. You're just like, oh, more factoids. Wow, I can win a trivia contest. I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? It's like this fundamental you're just pablum. It's just chaff. It's not really understanding humanity, and why slavery is bad, and why racism is bad, and why human interactions between people, and the economics of racism and the economics of slavery, why all that stuff and how that stuff happens. So we learn from it, so we do not repeat those mistakes. Okay. And understand, knowing that, who invented the first whatever, that's all well and good. But is that really giving people, a really strong foundation of understanding, why these things happened? The philosophical and religious and economic foundations to why these things occur. Okay. And so we have to understand that. We have to go deeper than who, oh yeah, I can do this and I can bring this up in a trivia contest, like big deal, you know? And that's one of my main criticisms and what I see a lot of the stuff. And it just kind of, it was annoying to me because it was just like, this doesn't do anything, you know? And it's a lot of it has to do with our own internal awareness, our own internal, like, where do we have, I mean, you know, I understand, like, you know, with D'Angelo, she wrote a book called White Fragility, I think it was called. And she's a white professor talking about white fragility. And it was even pissing on black people. You're like, that's really kind of patronizing and pandering, and like, you know, it's just weird. It's just, and there's a lot of issues. And I think this is what has led up to this backlash, unfortunately, against DEI stuff and not understanding what DEI really is. And, you know, people think it's just quotas again, and that's not necessarily true. And so people really don't have an understanding because they have not done their homework, and they just see and hear what people just tell them, or what they think something is, right? Because we're always kept at a very superficial level in our educational system, in our media, in our news. It's like you're not really getting foundational because you're getting so much information that they just throw this superficial crap at you, and that's as far as you're going to go. You don't really sit around and really discuss in deep detail about the deeper issues, the deeper philosophies, the deeper religion, the deeper economic reasons and causes, and looking at yourself and going, oh, wow, okay, I understand that. Like, we don't have the capacity apparently to be able to do any of that in the United States, because we're not encouraged to look deeper into things. We always want things to be very superficial. Hi, everyone. You know, we want everything to be very superficial because that's all we can handle. And so if someone tells us, well, this is the way things are, we just go, oh, okay. And we go on to the next thing. I mean, I'm guilty of it. You know, we all kind of scroll through our headlines, and that we make an assumption about what the story is based on the headline. And we shouldn't do that. And I shouldn't do that. I do it, I admit. Not all the time, but I do it. And it is bad. You know, we're not really trained in this country to really thoughtfully think about stuff. It is all very superficial and very just surface level crap. And it doesn't really get at the heart of what a lot of these basic things that we need to understand. Anyway, that's about Black History Month. The other issue that I want to bring up, if you have not heard, is the concept of dark enlightenment. Now, this is something that I'm actually starting to just delve into because I wasn't even aware that it existed. But if you want to understand Elon Musk, JD Vance, and some others, motivations and background, look up Curtis Yarvin, and the dark enlightenment. Because, and again, this is something that I'm starting to delve into, but I want people to kind of be aware of it, to understand where they're coming from, where their motivations, where their philosophy is coming from, right? Years ago, not too long ago, but I've seen some videos that have been leaked into onto YouTube about these Christian groups, like, you know, these churches and mega churches and everything, where they're talking about getting rid of democracy. I mean, they're on camera talking about how democracy is bad and that we should get rid of it. And I don't think people really, I mean, oh, democracy, right? But a lot of people don't really understand fundamentally about what democracy actually is. And so dark enlightenment is, and I'll read it from one of the things, right? So let's see. I'm going to read, this is from a website, the Financial Times. I was trying to find something. So let's see. So this is a quote. This is statements that are quoted in this article. And basically, the article is the strange political philosophy motivating Musk inside the rise of the dark Enlightenment's neo-reaction. I'm sorry, it's early morning. Neo-reactionary movement. Um, so Okay, so I'm just going to read from this article. Among all these vectors, one of the weirdest and most disturbing developments is the rise of the neo-reactionary movement, also called Dark Enlightenment. The name alone is spooky and intriguing. NRX, which is abbreviated, is an ideology founded by the British philosopher Nick Land and the American software developer Curtis Yarvin, who was recently interviewed in the New York Times. The philosophy argues that democracy inherently leads to social decline because of the development of deep state bureaucracies that are unable to control oligarchic forces, and that society should be run like corporations. We've heard that before, we should have, with a kind of CEO monarch in charge. As Yarvin has said, if Americans want to change their government, they need to get rid of dictator phobia. One way of dealing with this is, quote, hire two executives that make sure that they work together, and there really is no other solution. Are Trump and Musk those people? Some think so. Maya Angelou once said, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Let's see. There are other various Musk statements, like this one. I think it is a false dichotomy to look at the government and sort of industry as separate. Government is the ultimate corporation. Now, we've heard this concept before about how government really should be run like a corporation or a company. That is false. Okay, that's just false. But anyway, I won't go into why that is false because corporations and companies are driven by what? The profit motive. That is what they are there to do, to make money and to gain profit. Okay. Not to organize. I mean, if you're mystified by this, if we ran the government as a corporation, what do corporations do when they want to make more money? They cut their workforce. For one, they do that a lot. Now, we go, well, yeah, our government's bloated and there's a lot of like little red tapey, paper pushing bureaucrats, getting paid for doing something that can be done more efficiently. Now, I will interrupt my thought for a moment. I am not opposed to reducing inefficiency or reducing, bloated programs and people, oh, well, we've always done it this way, when there is a more important, like if you have 20 people that have to touch a piece of paper in order to do A, B, or C, is that efficient? We do want to obviously save money for taxpayers, correct? I mean, we want to save money for taxpayers. We want to make sure that we have more money set aside for things when we need them, right? And so I'm not opposed to that. But the problem is that if you're only looking at those things, like if you're only looking at, oh, well, we're going to save money this way, this way, this way, then when it comes time to deal with, say, FEMA, when you're dealing with natural disasters, when you're dealing with disease, when you're dealing with health and education and well-being of citizens, housing, infrastructure, those kinds of things. Those things generally are designed to benefit, or they are supposed to benefit, the citizens, correct? Like you have infrastructure. I drive by and I see improvements. There's a little town next to me that literally has boarded up houses, had a little dinky, I mean, they're little their municipal building where they have meetings about their little municipality. It's just a little tiny thing. It has leaks in the ceiling, and the leaks are dropping. Like, I mean, the ceiling is leaking, everything like that. So I don't know what's going to happen to them, like how they're going to raise money for that, right? But they did get funding because of the Kamala Harris Biden infrastructure project, right? Like the infrastructure bill that was passed during the Biden's administration allocated money for various communities, regardless of political motivation, remember, to work on their infrastructure. And part of the infrastructure of that small community was building a water treatment facility and basically get all these people in this small little community with actual plumbing. Like, well, they had plumbing, but they had like, what is it called? My brain is still fried. They're on septic, and they get onto a thing, and so it's more efficient, right? And this is important for this small community because when you talk about capitalism or corporations, you want to, make sure that you have an infrastructure that would invite them. So the only business they have is Dollar General. Okay, that's the only business they really have there. They don't have gas stations. They don't have any other kind of like business. They have one little tiny business that is in a church that they renovated, and they sell honey and stuff like that. But they didn't have a proper plumbing system, so they can't do anything more. They can't have programs. They can't run a kitchen. They can't do anything because there was no, they had to use an outhouse, right? Because, it was a very old thing. But here's a business, right, that is trying to, set up shop and to bring, revitalize this little tiny boo-foo town, right? I mean, they have, food program. They have food banks, right? And you're standing in this facility, and the roof is leaking, right? So you look and go, wow, we want more business to come in. If you're a capitalist, you want that, right? But are these businesses going to want to locate to some place that doesn't have a proper sewage facility, right? Because you're going to need to have bathrooms, you need to have whatever. And it's like, they don't want that because it's just going to be a pain. So they're not going to do that. And they don't want to take their money. So a lot of things, like we talk about, the relationship between private business and government, right? And that's fine, but it's like a lot of private businesses rely on taxpayer dollars and infrastructure projects and everything like that to build the roads to their business, to build the infrastructure like water and electricity and everything, to allow them to, grow. And so they can put a store in the thing to bring in money so they can do all this kind of stuff. So you can't just say, oh, well, it's inefficient. I mean, it's just amazing how people don't really understand, like, where do you think this money is going to come from to repair roads, to build roads, to maintain roads, to, it's like, or to maintain anything, to maintain sewage, to maintain basic infrastructure stuff. I mean, you can see what happened in Flint, Michigan, right? They cut corners and people suffered because they're like, well, we're saving money, right? So you've got this corporate attitude about like, well, we want to have, more money, or we're going to save taxpayers money if they're really doing that. And this is a cheaper way to go. So we'll do the cheaper way, not the proper way of doing something. And lead got into the water system, and the people there can't drink the water that's coming out of their tap. That's a major, major thing. So, you know, this has always been a criticism of capitalism and corporatism that, you know, you can't look at everything. Sometimes you have to, you know, invest money and put money into something and do the proper fix rather than just, oh, well, it's too expensive to properly dump this toxic waste or properly handle this waste or properly fix this problem. So we'll just cover it up, and there's no regulations. So no one's going to be doing any oversight, and we'll just like maybe build into our business plan that we may have some lawsuits. So we'll set aside this money over here to like pay people off, to silence people, whatever. And that's what happens. Okay. And so this notion that, you know, you can just do that and everything will be fine is, you're assuming a lot about humanity. You're assuming a lot that people are just going to automatically do the right thing. I mean, I always say that I lean into anarchy, but to be a truly anarchic society requires every single human to be enlightened and conscious and intelligent enough to handle these ethical issues when they come up. And we are not. We're not able to do that right now. We need to. But and then people suffer, people die, people think, I'm just going to go do this, even though it's absolutely unethical and immoral. Who cares? Whatever. And we keep making these mistakes over and over and over again. And we don't seem to be learning, and we seem to be backsliding massively in this country. And I don't know if we'll recover. I do not know if the United States will exist in 4 years. And people are so obsessed with celebrity crap and everything, and it's just devastating. And we're just like, what do we do? You know, because we haven't done the work. We haven't done the foundational work to understand these foundational issues, you know, of like natural law, of understanding right from wrong. We just don't understand them. And we just cling to things like religion or, oh, yeah, you know, look, the government is so ineffective and bureaucratic and everything like that. So let's just become a dictatorship again. Like, seriously? I mean, how many of you have actually watched a dystopian film? I mean, there's a lot of them out there. I would suggest go watch some of them and see how those societies came to be the way they are. It's just troubling. I just don't feel like people really are getting it, you know? And there's and the unfortunate thing that we're dealing with is that we are dealing with also the fact that there's a lot of online trolling and troll farms and AI and, you know, a lot of these tools that are being used for evil, nefarious, destructive purposes rather than healthy, productive, constructive purposes. AI is a very problematic issue, and I'm not 100% anti-AI. I can see how it can be, if used responsibly, to help people. But you can't just say, oh, we'll just have AI do it and have no oversight over AI, how it's being developed, who's programming it. Okay. For instance, United Healthcare allegedly was using AI to review their clients' cases. We already know that AI has a tendency to make up stuff, etc. So there's no I mean, how ethical is AI in understanding that, wow, this person has cancer and they're 40 years old or 30 years old or 20 years old, and saying, well, they've got cancer, it's going to cost this much money, we're not going to pay for it. And this person has like 3 kids, they're a productive member of society, etc. And they're just making this thing because it benefits the company, it benefits United Healthcare. There's just, I mean, it's just, I'm really troubled at the lack of foundational ethical and understanding of anything in this world, and that people are so easily led and tricked into believing people that promise them big things. And the thing is that don't fall for dictators, people. I mean, that's the simplest thing I can feel, don't follow religion, don't do all this kind of stuff, because it's not going to get you to truth and understanding and true freedom. Okay. I'm going to end because I'm at the 30-minute mark. I don't like to do more than 30 minutes, but again, look up Mark Passio's What on Earth is Happening, and go to his very first podcast and dedicate yourself to going through his podcasts from podcast number 1. And it's going to take you a while. It's going to require some work. There's no easy trick on this. He's very good at building a foundation of understanding of what is going on. And so, What on Earth is Happening, podcast number 1. And I will say, as a disclaimer, that you might find things that he says that will trigger you, that you might disagree with. I urge everybody, if they listen to him, that, number one, you don't have to, quote unquote, believe everything or accept everything. There's things that, there's things later on in his stuff that I think are, I can question and go, I don't really accept that, whatever. But he really gives you a really good foundation. And from there, I think that you can have a better place in order to really kind of handle and tackle a lot of these other issues. And it's always encouraged to do more research, but you need to have the foundation, okay? And again, like I started to say, be willing to listen and keep an open mind. And that if you are angered by something, like, I don't like the way he looks, or I hate his voice, or I don't like his website, it's really dark and just dark, I don't like it, it looks like a gamer thing, or whatever, whatever thing that might come into your head that goes, I don't like him, I don't like the way he says, he's angry, or he's got a beard, or whatever. I mean, put all that stuff to the side, because that is irrelevant, and listen to what he is saying. And this goes for anybody, myself included. Oh my God, she doesn't have any makeup on, she's got this. I mean, you have been so brainwashed into accepting that everything has to be pretty and polished and have pretty little sparkly lights and funny things, and I need to be entertained 24/7, instead of actually sitting down and actually listening and clearing your head of all that crap, and actually listen to what people are saying and understand, like, wow, I'm feeling triggered by something. I don't know if, oh my God, they said something and I'm mad. Understand what, like, look at yourself going, why am I getting triggered by this? What is it within me that I don't like? And do that internal shadow work. Okay. That will help you build the foundation that you need to build in order to tackle these problems instead of going, wow, I like this or whatever, and having this very superficial level of understanding of the world, because it's not going to get you anywhere. And look at where we are in the United States right now. Okay, anyway, hope everyone has a nice weekend. I will talk to you later.